A journalist asked Aryna Sabalenka about Alexandra Eala. And Sabalenka paused. Just for a moment. Just long enough to reveal something the rankings never will. Because here's what those rankings actually say right now. Sabalenka at world number 1, dominant, clinical, holding that position for over 80 consecutive weeks. Eala at world number 45, ranked below dozens of players most casual fans couldn't name. And yet tournament directors, former world numbers, and the sport's most trusted analysts are all circling the same question. Not whether Sabalenka is the better player. She is. The question is whether dominance and drawing power have quietly become two entirely different things in professional tennis. And if they have, what that means for everyone. January 2026. Melbourne Park. Australian Open. Eala finishes a routine practice session. No dedicated security assigned. Standard protocol for a player at her ranking. She tries to leave the court with her father and coach. The crowd surges forward. She gets pushed backward against a concrete wall by the sheer momentum of the bodies. Her father and coach have to shout just to create enough space to move. That's not how you describe a player ranked 45 in the world. That's how you describe an icon. Sometime in early 2026, a phrase started circulating among tournament organizers and analysts. Not from a headline. Not from a formal report. Just the language people reached for when they were trying to describe something they hadn't been trained to measure. Asterisk fans only pay when Alex plays. Asterisk 5 words. Inside those 5 words is one of the most significant economic shifts the WTA has seen in years. Because that phrase isn't describing a champion. It's describing a draw. And in professional sports, those two things have always been assumed to be the same person. Until now. Her Instagram carries over 920,000 followers. Her engagement rate sits between 15 and 20%, analysts consistently describe it as vastly superior to the WTA average. At the 2026 Miami Open, her run to the 4th round earned her $15,720 in prize money. But the crowd revenue? The broadcast interest? The ticket demand in Dubai, Doha, Melbourne? None of that fits in a prize money table. None of it shows up next to her name in the rankings. Coco Gauff, world number 3, said it directly. She's happy that Eala is bringing a new demographic to the sport. When the third-ranked player in the world publicly affirms the drawing power of the player ranked 45, that's not a footnote. That's a signal. To understand how we got here, go back to March 2025. Miami Open. She walks in as a wildcard ranked 140th, wildcards ranked 140th don't reach semifinals. They don't beat former Grand Slam champions. They don't eliminate multiple top 10 players in back-to-back-to-back straight sets. Eala did all of it. That run transformed her from a promising junior into a cultural phenomenon across the global Filipino diaspora, one of the most geographically spread fan bases in sport. Sports analysts in the Philippines reached for the most powerful comparison they had. They put her next to Manny Pacquiao. That comparison is not made casually. It is not made about a player ranked 45 under normal circumstances. But these are not normal circumstances, and the people making that comparison know exactly what they're saying. She's on the cover of Vogue. Named Philippine Sports Writers Association Athlete of the Year, the first Asian tennis player in history to win that award. She carried her nation's flag at the 2025 Southeast Asian Games. These aren't the credentials of an athlete searching for an identity. These are the credentials of someone her country has already decided is a symbol. Andy Roddick, former world number 1, 25 years in the game, interviewed her on his podcast and said something worth sitting with. He said at 43 years old, having spent a lifetime in professional tennis, there was no way he could have been as pragmatic or as self-aware as Eala. Especially, he said, in the eye of a popularity storm like this. He called her a trailblazer. He called her a gift to tennis. A former world number 1 saying a 20-year-old ranked 45 carries more composure than he ever did at her age. That's not a throwaway compliment. But now let's talk about the numbers that make this complicated. Indian Wells. Lost to Noskova 6-2, 6-0. Dubai. Lost to Gauff 6-0, 6-2. Miami. Lost to Machova 6-0, 6-2. 3 matches. 3 top-level opponents. 3 results that weren't close by any measure. Commentators reached for Emma Raducanu, another former champion whose string of heavy defeats was cited as leaving lasting damage on her development. But here's the interpretation the numbers actually support. The one most coverage skips past. Every single one of those defeats came against top 10 opponents. She hasn't been exposed at her level. She's been outmatched one tier above it. And the crowds haven't gotten smaller because of the scorelines. By every available measure, they've grown, which means her audience isn't watching for wins. They're watching for Eala. That is a fundamentally different relationship between an athlete and a fan base. And professional tennis hasn't had to reckon with it at this scale in a very long time. Now look at the calendar. Because this is where the story gets interesting. Stuttgart. April 13th to 19th, 7 top 10 players in the draw. Sabalenka, Rybakina, Gauff, Świątek, Zheng, Paulini, Andreeva. That density of elite talent pushed Eala into qualifying. But the week before Stuttgart, the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. April 6th to 12th, 0 top 10 players in the draw. Highest ranked competitor entered is world number 13. Eala is in the main draw directly. And here's the detail nobody is talking about. The Linz Open is being played on clay for the first time in its 38-year history. A tournament founded in 1987 that has never once been played on red clay, until this year. The year Eala needs ranking points. The year she has only 70 points to defend between now and Roland Garros. The year she arrives trained on clay since the age of 13 at the Rafa Nadal Academy. A semi-final at Linz earns $66,000 in prize money and ranking points. The title earns $186,000 and potentially a seeding at Roland Garros. This is the window. Right here. Right now. After Linz comes Stuttgart qualifying. Then Madrid at the Bernabeu, the first time that tournament has ever been held at Real Madrid Stadium. Then Rome. Then Paris. If Eala arrives at Roland Garros seated, with her crowds, her engagement numbers, her Pacquiao comparisons, and the adjusted security protocols that Melbourne made necessary, the question of who the biggest draw in women's tennis is stops being a debate. Nobody is questioning whether Sabalenka is the better tennis player right now. By every competitive measure, she is. The real question, the one that Sabalenka's brief pause when asked about Eala quietly suggested she already understands, is whether the 2026 clay season is the moment Alexandra Eala stops being the biggest draw in women's tennis. And starts becoming one of its champions. Nobody in the sport has that answer yet. But in about 2 weeks, Linz might. Subscribe now. Clay season starts April 6th and this is the most important stretch of Eala's career. You don't want to miss what happens next.